Alright guys, today's going to be the first of our kind of video lessons that we're going to have. We do quite a few of them, but we're going to talk about antebellum reform today. We'll do something fun in a few days, but today I want to talk about kind of the first couple of topics of antebellum reform, which is low church membership and alcohol issues. Alright, so first off, low church membership might seem like it's not that big of a deal today, but back then, you've got to remember that church membership heavily influenced the government. You know, who was in charge, who was doing what, the rules and policies. So people not attending church increased issues like poverty, crime, immorality, people doing things that just weren't acceptable back then. All right. This is going to lead to what's called the Second Great Awakening, this time period where people really come back to religion and start joining churches throughout the United States. All right, and it's going to be led by these series of what are called religious revivals. These evangelical ministers, mainly led by guys like Charles Finney, are going to have these giant meetings out in the woods, out on farms, called camp meetings. People are literally going to stay there for days, weekends, in tents. Thousands of people are going to show up. Think of it like a Coachella back then, except for religion. Tons of people would show up to these things. They were super popular. Okay, and when people showed up to these things, they listened to what individuals had to say. They listened to what these leaders had to say, and it really led to a bunch of important impacts in American history. One of them is going to be a big increase in church membership. People are going to start attending church throughout the country, which is going to greatly decrease issues like poverty and crime and alcoholism. We'll get to that one a little bit later on. Another is going to be the start of some new religions. Joseph Smith creating Mormonism in upstate New York, which it'll turn out well in the long run, but it won't turn out well for him, obviously, in upstate New York. We've talked about that before, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. The creation of what are called some utopian communities, these communities that thought that they could kind of have this perfect balance of happiness. Everybody would pitch in and do what they needed to do. Again, most of these were in upstate New York, one of them being the Oneida Silverware Factory, where everything was shared, and I mean everything. So that's kind of a weird situation during that time point. Most of those utopian communities don't exist anymore today. But the big thing that'll come out of this is that Christians are going to decide that they need to reform society. They need to change the way that people behave, and it's their job or their mission to lead these changes and to make sure that these things get done. And kind of the first of these changes is going to be the massive issue with alcoholism in the United States during this time period. Whiskey is incredibly cheap to drink. It's cheap to make. So a lot of men, specifically men, are doing that. In 1820, men in the United States consumed about 7 gallons of liquor. 7 gallons of liquor per year. Today, it's about 2.6 gallons per year per man. So, I mean, that is a ridiculous amount of alcohol. So obviously, when that's going on, it's leading to a lot of other issues. Crime, debt, spousal abuse. Men are coming home drunk and unfortunately beating their wives. People are not going to work. It's leading to poverty issues. It's leading to massive debt where people are just, borrowing money to buy alcohol. It was an absolute disaster during this time period. Okay, so this is going to start what's called the temperance movement. This movement where mainly women are going to get their husbands and men to pledge not to drink alcohol. They're gonna block bars. They're going to get them to sign paperwork to agree not to drink alcohol. They're going to withhold things from them if they drink alcohol. They're going to do everything that they can do, basically, to get these men to stop drinking so much alcohol. They do a good job of it, actually. It's led by this thing called the Women's Christian Temperance Union that actually does a really good job of getting men to follow this policy nationwide through, again, blocking bars, through doing these pledges, and getting them to drink less has a great result. It massively decreases alcoholism. It decreases the amount that men are drinking from 7 gallons all the way down to about 3 gallons, which is seriously impressive during this time period. It increases work. It decreases debt. The men seem to be happier when they're coming home. they're working longer hours, and they're doing a better job. So again, to recap, the beginning of our Antebellum reform section, low church membership, not a good thing during this time period, again, because most government policies and leaders come from church membership. So they have to increase that to deal with some of the ills of society. And massive alcoholism. Again, these are what your questions are on today. And the temperance movement tries to lower that alcoholism. All right. So next video will be coming up on some other issues. We're going to talk about education. We're going to get into women's rights. We're going to get into mental issues, psychological issues, and we're going to talk about slavery. So hope you enjoyed today's little mini lesson. Keep checking back for more lessons online. Make sure you're reading the PowerPoints and make sure you're doing all the work that's posted, okay? All right, I hope everybody's doing all right and continue doing what you're doing. All right, see you later.